I struggle with that now. I need to have changes that are ahead of me, well planned out, to be able to not accept the change. It's not change. It's not that I can't accept change. It's I need it planned so that I can be part of that change in an effective way and in a meaningful way for me. Autistic people are exceptionally egocentric. A lot of things in their life is about them. It is me. I hate to admit it, but I know it is. That's true. That doesn't mean that autistic people can't care and give other people a lot of attention and a lot of love and everything, because I do that all the time. But again, that's my job. That's in a little box. Job box. Get home, completely different matter altogether. You don't have to do that then, really. Planning. Being involved with planning is really important, even if it feels like the person you're trying to involve in the planning isn't interested. Yeah? I've got an exceptionally good memory. You'll probably be laughing at that and think, no, you haven't, but I have. My long-term memory is really, if you tell me something that matters to me 3 years ago, I'll remember that if I need to in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years time, if it mattered to me. Yeah? Or if all of a sudden I have to recall what you said to me for a certain situation that matters at that time that might not have done 5 years ago, I can recall that and think and make that link. Yeah? So don't think that you're wasting your time involving someone with planning because they might not look like they're interested. Because it might go in and they might use that very usefully in days, weeks, months, even years. Yeah? So the number of times I've had people say to me, there's no point involving him because he's not going to pay any attention at all. Actually, you won't know how much attention, how much is going in really. You're not ever going to know that really. Yes?
Finally, they're looking at my child through he's 12, he's turned 12. And wherever he tells you these days what happened, change them, I can get home and smoke that. So I can't just try and drop it in gently. What's that like doing that? What's going to be a big change?
I think it's different. It's really difficult for everyone. I think again, social stories are a really good way of approaching that. So you're not making it personal for the child. You're going around that in terms of sharing an experience that lots of other people experience and are successful experiencing. And the more information you can give that depersonalises it for them, the less likely you are to have that sort of emotional outburst when it comes to that then. And that's, again, Google is immensely useful for, just type in social stories and the situation that you want to get across. You'll have lots of things that come up there. Always make sure you put the age of the child there as well, because that's important as well. So the more you can prepare in a way that takes away the personalness for the child, I'd say that's the best way to go around that. Yeah.
Can I just add to that? We've got a situation going on with my grandson at the moment, and they're about to get a new baby in September, but my daughter's having a baby as well shortly. So I've used that process to say, oh, this new baby's coming into the family, and then that's prepared him ready for his new baby coming into the family in September. So it's in small steps.
Sometimes I give me a long time to think about it. It makes it 100 times worse.
But if you use somebody else as an example,
I will try that Google in it,
and then you can relate it to him later on.
Yeah.
Just do it bit by bit, baby steps.
Yeah, I'll try that.
So I've skipped the next slide because we've touched on quite a lot of that already. This is about sort of sensory responses and the as a result of the environment that we might find ourselves in. So we've got tactile in terms of touch, vestibular in terms of movement, proprioceptive in terms of body position, visual looking, auditory hearing, olfactory smell, gustatory taste. Some of these sensors that we all take for granted, everyone might take for granted, will be magnified in lots of people with autism, magnified. I'll give you an example in terms of touch. There'll be certain things that a child with autism will physically feel ill touching. The sensation for them will be, I've got a boy in school at the moment who can't wear his school shoes, and this is where adaptations come into play in school, because they have a uniform. No, the uniform is black shoes, plain black leather shoes, that's our uniform. Well, my son can't wear plain black leather shoes because he can hear the creaking, the feel of the leather makes him feel sick, and they won't be prepared to change that. In my school, wear whatever the child feels comfortable with them. It's not important to us. We do have a uniform, but actually if they need to wear something different on the feet instead of plain black leather shoes, that's absolutely fine. Whatever they used to want to and is comfortable with them. Those small adaptations are really important. Smell. That's a big one for me. I can smell certain things from a mile off before I'm anywhere near it, really. Body position. It was really nice when I arrived when somebody asked me. No one ever asks you these questions. When somebody who clearly understood something about autism said to me, "Are these chairs too close for you?" No one ever asked me that question, ever. Yeah, it's a simple question like that can make sure that you're able to function. Yeah, it didn't bother me at all. But for a lot of people with autism, that would have been a really big deal. Having chairs right next to you in a row, you might want a bit of distance there. And again, work. I can cope with that in work. What I'm doing now is work. If it was home, that would be a very different matter altogether. If you came into my house as a stranger, you'd have to have your distance. I would want you to keep a bit of distance from me. I wouldn't want my personal space invading from someone that I didn't know. Yeah, I can go to the pub with people I know and be quite happy with lots of people being around me because I don't have to interact with them if I don't want to. I can pretend that they're not there. I'm going to be in my own little bubble. There might be 50 odd people around me in the Lion all dancing and it won't bother me because they're of no significance to me whatsoever. I'm not interacting with them and I don't need to unless I want to. So body position's really important, I think, and can be the cause of a lot of stress and meltdowns for some children. It's instinctive for a parent, especially with young children. It's instinctive for a parent if your child is upset to want to come with them, isn't it? And get them be close to them. That can be the cause of. They might not want that. You might have your child go rigid, and you need to find other ways of having that sort of interaction with your child if that's the case, really. It can cause a lot of distress really early on. No, I'm not going to go into that. I think we've covered most of that sort of thing already. So this is the way that we can help them. Be aware of autism and the differences experienced by autistic people is key. Ask the autistic person, carers or seek advice from us. No one ever asked. It meant a lot to me when I arrived into this room and I was asked that person. You particularly looked after me really well, right from being outside, by guiding me up, taking me at the back, guiding me up the stairs. You introduced yourself to me. I was really well looked after. And that meant a lot for me because I knew what to expect that next step to be in an environment that I've not been in this room before. I tried to come in earlier on. I came at 10:30, but it was being used, so I could see the room where I was going to be, but I couldn't because it was being used. And it didn't sit well with me at all, that night out. So that was really helpful for me. Just ask. If you're not sure, ask. You might not get a response when you want it, but you might get a response at some point. Be understanding. People with autism have a lot to offer that may need support. We all need support, don't we, at various times in our life, and it should be there for us all. Consider how to adapt the environment to decrease sensory issues. Little things like noise, dimming lights, having a quiet space available that suits the person. Yeah. My quiet space at home is my front living room, where, quite frankly, is my room and no one else really goes into it. I've got another space for everybody else. That's my room, that's when I go, when I just want to be on my own. And generally speaking, other than my cats and my dog, who are very welcome in that room, I prefer everybody else just to leave me alone in there and not being around me. Yeah? Okay? An adaptive communication style. You know, if you know that someone's going to struggle with understanding, if you know that someone's going to struggle with a particular, facial expression, then, almost plan it. Sometimes you have to. I had quite a debate with someone the other day who said, I shouldn't have to think about what I say beforehand. Well, actually, sometimes you do have to think about what you say beforehand. Sometimes you do have to plan what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. I'm doing that constantly in my life with the son, with people that I work with. That's how I survive, by rehearsing my social situations before they happen, and then I know then how to sequence my interaction with people to enable me to be successful in those interactions. But then sometimes it looks like people might not afford me the same grace when they're communicating with me, and actually you wouldn't expect total strangers to. But when you're a close family member and you've got to, or a member of staff at school and you've worked with someone closely, then there is an expectation that you do adapt around. And I don't agree with this notion that, but in the big wide world, when little Billy leaves school and he's out and about in the community, he's going to have to learn. Well, no, little Billy won't have to learn, because little Billy will still do things that are important to little Billy and not other people. Yeah? So to keep little Billy safe, he still needs this scaffolding around him, even when he's 22. The same way that he needed when he was 5. Yeah? That social side and the scaffolding that you might need doesn't disappear just because you're older. That's my experience anyway, in terms of my son's needs, and to some extent my own needs as well. So communication, in terms of adapting, speak slowly and clearly. I really struggled with that. When I moved over here, petite Scouse people talk really fast, don't they? In Yorkshire we tend to talk a lot slower. But I struggled with that. I used to pride myself in school as a teacher at being able to lip read what a child was saying from a mile away in the classroom. Yeah? I can't lip read Scouse, so it annoys me as well. I want to try and master that, but I'm just not, it annoys me that I can't do that. I've got, I know, I'm aware of that. But I still, I thought this was a teacher thing, but it's almost certainly the autism bit in me, really. I can hear what a child says in a class of 30 at the back of a classroom. They're always amazed. I heard what you just said, and that wasn't very nice, was it? How did you hear that? I was famous for it in school. You wouldn't say anything inappropriate in front of me, even if you were stood at the other end of the playground, because I'd hear it. Really good skill as a head teacher, that I've got to say. Don't use idioms or metaphors unless you know that the person using them with is going to understand them. I can understand them, my son can. But sometimes you might cause offence and you might cause a bit of misunderstanding there. Allow time for the person to process information. Sometimes it might take weeks before a conversation has sunk in, and it will only be relevant to that person when it matters to them, but it doesn't mean that they need to listen to it at the time. So don't shy away from giving advice, giving information, even if you think it's not going to be useful at the time. Too many people stop communicating with children with autism who might have outbursts and go into crisis because they think, well, if I say such and such, they're going to go into crisis. That's not really the way to deal with it. You might need to adapt the style that you use, but actually the information that you're giving them probably is going in and might be useful at some other point. It just might not be apparent to you there and then. It might never be apparent to you that it's going to be important to them. You might never know. Keep instructions short and sequenced. You know, don't give 3 or 4 instructions all at once. Chunk them up into understandable. Even I need that now. If you give me too much information, I'll stop listening. Not because I'm rude, just because I can't function that way. Avoid relying on gesture, facial expression or tone of voice. It's really hard. We're human beings, we're not robots. That happens all the time without you even... I think when I try not to do that, I'm probably doing it even more, to be honest, especially the facial expression bit. So I'm trying not to give too much, pay too much notice to that myself, because I think I do it all the more I think about it. But it's just something to be aware about. I'm not going to get on to, because it's 7:10, I aren't going to get on to assessment. We've just run out of time, but I have got copies of my presentation for the SEN Code of Practice. Do you want me to whiz through it in 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Just really quickly, yeah? Are we able to do that?
Would it be better if we maybe did another session?
I can do another session just on that.
Practice? Can we have a general vote of hands on that, please?
I think that would be best than rushing through it.
Rather than rush through it, I think it's important to actually... Yeah, are you okay with that, Mike?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine with that, yeah.
I'd rather do it properly than rush through it.
If people find that useful, I know I'm probably giving a lot of information that most of you would have already known.
It's really good to hear it from your reception.
Yeah. My son's 32 and only got a diagnosis last year.
Yeah.
So